Let's talk about a conflict that often gets overlooked, but is absolutely critical to understanding the modern Middle East. We're diving into the Iran-Iraq War, a brutal 8-year-long struggle that cost around 1 million lives and, maybe more importantly, forged a nation and its most powerful institution.
You might think this quote sounds like something out of a surreal, dark war film, but no, this is a real memory from an Iraqi officer, and it perfectly captures the unique horror of this war, a conflict that pitted a modern, secular military against a brand new, fervent revolutionary state.
Okay, so to get why this all happened, you gotta rewind the clock to 1979. Iran is in total chaos. The Islamic Revolution has just happened, the Shah is gone, and the country's military, which used to be this pillar of the old regime, has been gutted. It's disorganized, weak, and looks incredibly vulnerable. And that chaos looked like a golden opportunity to its neighbor. On one side, you've got Iraq's leader, Saddam Hussein. He sees this as his big chance to make Iraq the top dog in the Persian Gulf, to settle old scores over a contested waterway, and maybe even grab some oil-rich land. But on the other side, Iran's new supreme leader, Ayatollah Khomeini, has his own huge ambitions. He wants to export his Islamic revolution, and he's actively calling for the Shia majority in Iraq to rise up and overthrow Saddam's secular government. So, you've got a collision course. So, Saddam decided to roll the dice. On September 22, 1980, Iraqi tanks and troops poured across the border. The plan was simple, a quick, decisive strike. He figured the revolutionary government in Iran was so fragile that it would either collapse completely or just surrender and give him everything he wanted. Yeah, that turned out to be a massive, massive miscalculation. Saddam completely underestimated the power of revolutionary and religious zeal. Instead of shattering, the invasion actually united Iran. The regime brilliantly framed it as a sacred defense, a holy war to protect the revolution itself. And this unleashed two brand new forces. You had the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, and the Basij, which was this huge volunteer militia. Now, these weren't your typical soldiers. These were fighters driven by ideology, fiercely loyal to the revolution, not the old state. And get this, here's a twist that sounds totally made up. Iran was under an international arms embargo, so where did it get weapons? From a secret and pretty ironic partner, Israel. Yeah, through something called Operation Seashell, Israel sold Iran over $75 million worth of weapons in 1981. Why? Simple logic. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. And for Israel, Saddam's Iraq was a major threat. So fast forward to 1982, and this is where things get really crucial. Fueled by this revolutionary fire and, well, some new weapons, Iranian forces pull off a series of incredible counter-offensives. They do the unthinkable. They push the entire Iraqi army back across the border. Iran is free of invaders. So Saddam's big gamble is in ruins, and he offers a ceasefire. The invasion is over. Iran won, right? They defended their homeland. So here's the big question. Why on earth did this war grind on for another 6 horrifying years? The answer really comes down to one man, Ayatollah Khomeini. See, for him, this was never just about borders or land. It was a holy war, a fight against a corrupt secular government. He completely rejected any kind of peace deal with Saddam. And the IRGC, who are now running the show on the battlefield, they adopted that exact same hardline, uncompromising view. And this is the absolute turning point. The entire purpose of the war just flipped. In July of 1982, Iranian forces crossed the border into Iraq. The sacred defense was officially over. This was now an offensive crusade, with the goal of toppling Saddam and exporting the Islamic Revolution by force. That fateful decision locked both countries into a nightmare. 6 more years of a brutal, grinding war of attrition, a bloody stalemate with a human cost that is just almost impossible to imagine. The fighting just evolved into pure brutality. You had the War of the Cities, with missiles raining down on civilians. The Tanker War, which spread the fighting into the Persian Gulf. And most horrifically, the IRGC started using human wave attacks, literally sending tens of thousands of lightly armed but incredibly dedicated men and young boys, some as young as 10 years old, running straight into Iraqi machine guns and minefields. And if you want to understand the sheer scale of this carnage, just look at this number. In one single failed offensive, Operation Karbala 4, it's estimated that 10,000 Iranians were killed. In 3 days, That was the price the leadership in Iran was willing to pay to keep their crusade going. But even a revolutionary regime has its limits. By the summer of 1988, the costs were just too enormous. Public support was evaporating. Iran had no choice but to finally accept a UN ceasefire. The guns fell silent. So after all that, after 8 years and 1 million people dead, what was the result? Well, take a look. Absolutely nothing. The borders were exactly where they started. Saddam's regime survived. The Islamic Republic survived. It ended in a complete, catastrophic stalemate. So if nobody won on the battlefield, does that mean there was no winner? No, there absolutely was a victor. But to find them, you can't look at a map. You have to look at the power structures that were forged in the fire of this war. The war's true victor was the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC. It started out as just a militia, but 8 years of total war transformed it. It became a powerful parallel military, a state within a state, with its own army, its own navy, and eventually its own massive economic and political empire. And here's why that matters. By leading the sacred defense, by being the ones to fight back the invaders, the IRGC gained this immense legitimacy in the eyes of the people. It became seen as the ultimate protector of the revolution. And that cemented its role as one of the most powerful institutions inside Iran, a role it has never given up. And that's the real legacy of this war. On the surface, it ended in a draw, but strategically it was a massive victory for the hardliners in Iran. The war didn't change the border with Iraq, but it fundamentally changed Iran itself. It created the powerful state within a state that defines Iranian politics, and by extension, the entire Middle East to this very day.